Start us off in 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to Geekvice episode 270, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph, that man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
I feel like I could touch your nose if I did it just right. It's the joys of camera work. It's so amazing. Anyway, how you doing, Kip?
Oh, it's going.
Yeah, well,
I'm actually messaging with work while I'm podcasting, so maybe I'm getting paid to podcast.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what we've been working for this whole time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, let's see, this last week, crazy stuff that's happened. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of crazy things. Went to my first high school soccer game since graduating from high school. And I'm not one of those creeper guys that was just going and had no connections to the players out there. I actually know one of the coaches, and so that's why we went. And then we were like, oh, hey, we forgot that a friend of ours, their son, is the goalkeeper for the varsity soccer team. So we took the kids and went out there and watched them play, and actually had a lot of fun. They were a really good team. They ended up winning tonight, 2-1, so that was good. And
Sweet.
we're looking to go back next week and watch them play again next week when they're home. And so yeah, it's a lot of fun. The parents said that they were glad we were there because this was the best they had played, and they accredited us to the fact that they had played so well. So that's good. I'll take that, build up my confidence, make it feel like, hey, I made these kids play better. I really had nothing to do with it, but you know, still makes you feel good.
Yeah, but the things we tell ourselves.
Right? Yeah. It's like, it's like when you watch your favorite professional team or your favorite college team, and you're like, oh, they should do this, and then they do it and it works, and you're like, see, I knew what I was doing. I was smart. I influenced them.
Yeah. More for me, it's they lost because I wasn't wearing the right shirt.
Yes, I have done that as well. Yeah. And I've actually come home from a professional, like going to see sporting play, and they'll win, and then I'll immediately take that shirt off and I'll hang it back up and put it up, and I won't wash it. And my wife looks at me.
You don't
and she's
want to
like,
wash the win off.
Yeah, she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's not. I just wore it for the game. It's not really that dirty." I don't tell her that it's like, no, that's superstition. I can't wash it. That's a winning shirt. So until they lose, I can't wash it. It's like the hockey beard. I've always wanted to do that, but I've never been like that into a hockey game since I could grow a beard. So, or a hockey team. So I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan. Red Wings? Yeah, Red Wings fan. But like, it just isn't the same without Fedorov and Yzerman and Nicholas Lidstrom and all these guys from the 90s. It's just
I loved that team.
Yeah.
I watched the hell out of that team in the 90s.
Oh man, they were so much fun to watch, and like it was just a whole different style at which they played. And now I've tried to get back into it, and I don't know. I'm hoping that this next thing that we're going to talk about here is going to help me get back into it, because the hardest part is finding when they were on TV. They're like being able to just like flip on the TV and it's like, oh yeah, it's always going to be on this channel. It's always at this time. Like you just flip it on, you can always get it. Well, when you cut the cord, you don't have that ability.
Right.
Well, I have since added a subscription to Hulu Live. We are paying paying to get Hulu Live, so now we kind of have those multiple channels. We see commercials now. because we can watch live television. And and I gotta say, I'm a big fan of it for anyone that has not gone to a live thing. And this isn't. I don't want to make a comparison between Hulu Live and YouTube Live and PlayStation View and all those other different live things. If you don't have one and you're streaming, I would recommend getting one. They're not that expensive, and they really do give you a lot more options. And so, here's the thing that I want to bring up. We have all this a la carte stuff that's available right now. Like ESPN, you can get ESPN. What is it? ESPN Plus. You can pay for
Right.
that and get all the ESPN channels. You can get the NBC Gold and get all the NBC sports. I think it's NBC Sports Gold or whatever it is, but you can get all the NBC stuff. So I had been using my parents' login to be able to get those channels live, so that I could watch Sunday Night Football on NBC, so that I could watch the sporting games on the Fox stuff, so I could watch ESPN for Monday Night Football. That's how I watched all that stuff before. But I ran into serious problems where those dedicated channels, this is NBC broadcasting, NBC streaming service. It all goes through them. And I would have problems with connection issues. I'd have problems with buffering. I'd have problems with grainy, just not crystal clear 1080p broadcast. And I just chalked it up to, it's just a product of streaming. It's a product of um, where my um, Roku is. It's hooked up wirelessly, so there's that issue. My router for that's down in the basement, sitting right right here next to me. And so it's a long ways away to get to my bedroom, a lot of interference. That's what I chalked it up to. Since getting Hulu Live, ESPN doesn't buffer, it's crystal clear. NBC Sports doesn't buffer, it's crystal clear. Fox is crystal clear. All of this stuff that Hulu really doesn't have, like, doesn't do anything with. They just take the stream from somebody else and re-stream it. That's all they do. And yet their stuff comes out crystal clear. And these own services that are completely 100% dedicated to getting their stuff right can't get it right. Explain that one to me, Fred.
I would like to, but I'm going to have to agree with you. We just got Hulu Live um, a week ago. And so this weekend was the first weekend watching football with it. And Sunday night, I turned on the end of the Chiefs game, and I was shocked how clear that game was.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you
Crappy
go to
ass
a
game.
live sporting event, especially an NFL game, the first thing that captures you is how bright and brilliant everything looks in live like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It almost was that good on my TV Sunday night.
Yeah. Yeah.
I turned it on, went, holy cow, look at this. This is awesome. Unfortunately for Chiefs fan, the game wasn't awesome, but hey, my picture was.
Yeah. Yeah. And and that's really the surprise, and the thing that surprised me the most is like I said, Hulu isn't, they don't have a camera crew out there doing the shots. Like, they are only taking the streaming feed that is normally going to the NBC channel, or hell, it's the same one going to the NBC channel. They're just taking that feed and putting it through their system and broadcasting it, like putting it on the internet, basically. That's all they're
Yeah,
doing. And
yeah.
yet theirs is so much better. Theirs was better than the live channel on, like, because I also have live TV as well. For I have a digital antenna in my living room, and so I can choose between the two of them. I've actually been going to Hulu Live to watch stuff down there instead of going to the antenna because it's a clearer picture. Like like NBC, get your shit straight, so that you're using, like, your own app should be better than somebody else's app.
Yeah. Well,
ESPN's
one
the
another
same
thing
way.
I've noticed is besides the picture being clear, the sound is better.
Yep.
There's a lot of times we'll be watching Netflix or before we got rid of cable, and we'd have to turn it up pretty loud. We started watching Hulu, and I put the volume at the same place as we'd watch other stuff, and about blew us out the house. I mean, it's so much better.
Yeah.
I'm so far, I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I've been really happy with it too. I haven't had it much longer than you. I've only had it for maybe 2 weeks, maybe two. Uh, yeah, maybe a month because I think I got it shortly after the Chiefs started, and the Chiefs are in week 5. They just finished the 5th week, so maybe I've had it for 5 weeks.
Damn.
But yeah, I've been really, really impressed with it. And now I haven't watched a ton of stuff because I don't watch a whole lot of live TV. If it's not sports, I'm not usually watching it live. Um, but it's football season, and so I watch a lot of like I watch the Chiefs games on Sunday, and then I always watch Sunday night football, and then I always watch Monday night football, and I always watch Thursday night football. And so far, every time I've flipped on one of those, I have never had a problem with Hulu not connecting. I've never had a problem um, uh, with a grainy picture. I've never had a problem with buffering. I haven't had any of those problems, which I was having the problems in the exact same setup with the like I haven't changed anything. All I did was add Hulu Live and voila, life has been better. So I don't know what Hulu's doing, but they got their shit straight.
Yeah, it's pretty magnificent.
And I can't say that, PlayStation View or YouTube Live or any of those wouldn't be just as good, but I can say that Hulu Live is better than NBC's Sports Network app. It's better than the Fox Sports app. It's better than Fox Sports Go, and it's better than ESPN. It's better than all 4 of those apps. There, I said it. It is.
You're on the record.
Bingo. Um, so yeah, we got that going for us. I'm excited to give it some more tries. Also, I recommend watching Letterkenny. Have you watched Letterkenny yet?
Yeah.
I've I'm only
Squirrely Dan is my favorite.
oh heck yeah. That's what I appreciates about you.
Oh yeah, and everything's plural. I love
Yeah,
how he talks.
yeah. Oh, it's great. That show is really funny. I my neighbor has been bugging me for months, if not years, to go watch this, and so I'm finally getting through it. I'm through the first season. Like I got like a couple more weeks before the new season starts, so I got to hurry up and get through the rest of it. But yeah, it's he can quote it. He can quote all kinds of lines out of it, and I just like, oh my goodness, this stuff is hilarious, so
Oh
funny.
yeah.
Definitely recommended. That's a Hulu. I think it's all. I think it's only on Hulu.
That's what I watch it on.
Yeah. I don't think it's anywhere else. It was broadcast on a Canadian channel, I believe, but originally. But anyway, now since we talked about
Yeah, it
Hulu,
was on Channel 10, which was Channel 8 in Canadian TV.
the
Sorry.
now he threw me all off. All right, so we've talked about Hulu. Now let's go to the other streaming service. Let's talk about a show on Netflix. Um, I want to pull up the bio for this, but it's called In the Shadow of the Moon. Netflix original movie. It is, let's see, directed by Jim Mickle. Um, let's see, I'm trying to see if there's anyone else. Written by Gregory Weidman and Jeff Talk. And it stars a lot of people that, I mean, probably aren't really known. Um, Boyd Holbrook, Cleopatra Coleman, and Michael C. Hall. Which that name sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Michael C. Hall is Dexter.
Ah, that's why. That's why I know him. Okay. Okay. Um. Well, who was he? Who was he in
What
the?
do you mean, who is he?
Which one? Which one was he in the show?
He was
Oh, was he the guy's like brother-in-law? Like there was the detective at the beginning?
yeah, which, kind of helped him in his career. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It was his wife's brother.
yep.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Cuz I knew he wasn't the main character. That was Boyd Holbrook. Anyway, okay. So let's break it back down. Here you go. This is a science fiction thriller film. It's straight to Netflix. It's actually really good. I was really impressed with it. Um, the movie takes place over. It starts in 1988 and goes every 9 years, starting in 1988, and it starts off with basically like three or four people dying at the same time of their brains melting, basically.
Yeah, you don't really know that's what's happening. All you know is all of a sudden blood is starting to come out of places it's not supposed to come out of.
Yeah, yeah, and then you find out when a bus crashes, it's a bus driver, um, is one of the victims, and they go and looking at it like, oh, that's pieces of brain that came out of her head. Um, so it starts off as kind of like this murder mystery, and you don't really know. The main character, Thomas Lockhart, is just a police officer trying to become a detective, and so you like it. It really has this feel of like a not really a buddy cop movie, but like a guy trying to become a detective, like a detective.
Yeah, he's basically a uniformed officer that oversteps his bounds
Yeah,
doing detective work all the time.
and I really like, man, it got me hooked within the first few, the first little bit of it. So they they're trying to track down who this killer is. They they catch a little bit. They catch one of the victims before they die, and she's able to give a description of who it is, and so immediately everybody's out looking for this person. They find her. They chasing her down. The main character, Thomas Lockhart, gets her is basically pins her in a subway station, and she ends up kung fuing this guy, locking him up, and he just luckily gets like a taser off to her, and she falls in front of a subway train and dies.
So you think.
And from there, the movie becomes sci-fi amazingness. Um, you know, I don't know how much more you can talk about it without spoiling it.
Yeah, that's the hard part about it. So I will say this: the somebody at work told me about it and said it was a time travel type of a movie. I guess we can say that.
Yeah,
Whether we could or not, I did. So, um, and I thought, great, it's one of those movies just going to screw with your head. But it really didn't. It handled the whole time travel thing in a way that it wasn't uh, too mind bendy, I guess is the
yeah,
best way to say it, without using the F word.
yeah.
Um, so I
I
don't want
thought,
to go into any more detail in that because you got to see the movie. Um,
yeah. So here's what we're gonna do. Otherwise, this is gonna be a really short episode, and I want to talk more about this. So here's what we're gonna do, people. Here's the cut. If you're listening to this and you don't want to be spoiled, hit pause right now. Go watch the show. come back and pick up the podcast right here. If you don't mind being spoiled, stick around because we're going to spoil it. We're going to talk about this because this movie is so well done that I don't know if there's awards for films that just go straight to streaming, but this one should be up for one because this is really, really good. So, here's your point. Stop now, hit pause, or continue listening at your own risk. Ready? Here we go. Alright, so yes, time travel movie. Yes, there is time travel to it, but it is not the main character time traveling. He's going through life on his own. After the death of this person, his wife dies, his child's born, he becomes a detective. The world is pissed off because this person that can't be identified died. And you
And
think,
he's a white cop and she was a black girl.
right.
So that was going against him as well.
So you still watching this movie, you don't even know it's time travel yet. Right now you're just watching this movie going, all right, so now he's a detective, we're going to deal with him and the birth of his daughter, the death of his wife on the same day. Also the fact that this happened and he killed somebody on a subway, he wasn't able to solve the crimes on how she was killing people, all of this stuff. And like you're going to go, okay, it's going to be a sci-fi thriller in the sense that there's they're trying to figure out what this science fiction thing is on how they were killing people. At this point, I didn't even know it was a time travel movie. Like you were told ahead of time it was a time travel movie. I don't know if you told me time travel. I think you just told me it was a detective movie.
Yeah, I didn't. I think I just assumed everybody knew it.
Ne- yeah, never didn't read a single thing about it before I watched it. And at this point, I'm going, all right. Now I'm seeing this. Now I'm picking it up, and I'm like, I'm trying to put the pieces together in my own head. And then all of a sudden, these deaths start happening again. 9 years later, his daughter's 9 years old, and these deaths start happening again. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, okay, this is weird. Okay, that looks like the same person. Okay, I think we're talking time travel now. Like now I'm like, okay, how are they fitting in this time travel? Where did this person like how was this happening that she died but she's able to come back? Maybe she didn't die, maybe she what I was starting to think was she went back in time right then. Like as soon as she died, she immediately instead of dying, she just went like life model decoy type thing, went consciousness out into somebody else. Kind of like um, what was the name of that show? I watched it on Netflix too. Um, Travelers, kind of like
Oh yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like a Travelers type thing, to where their consciousness just moved from body to body. No, that was not it. So they did a really good job with this, and it was very interesting. With hey, uh, when he would this detective Locke would he would he'd figure it out. He was smart enough to figure out what was going on, but he wasn't good enough to be able to stop her. And she, the second time he runs into her, he's like, "Hey, what happened?" She's like, "Stop! You need to stop! Like, stop chasing me. Let it go. Go on with your life. Leave it alone." But of course, he can't do that. He's locked on. He's a dog with a bone. And I thought it was really good. He ends up kind of having his daughter stay with his his wife's brother and his wife instead of him taking because he's spending all his time trying to figure this out
oh yeah. It's pretty much ruined his life.
and but it was interesting because he was latched onto this idea that if he could stop her that maybe he could like that he had to stop her because he couldn't save his wife, you know, and that it was like he could save everybody else this girl is killing since he couldn't save his wife. And it was just like that that idea that like it just really well done. Really well done.
Yes, it was. It's, you know, after a while, you figured out that this person is doing something they consider um, good work, I guess is the
Yeah.
best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine, and you're latching onto that. And then when you find out who she is, that just really just set it right up there on edge, because you're like, okay, I didn't see this coming. And then it just went from, you got to stop this person, got to stop this person, to, oh, I'm sad that she dies every time. You know,
Yeah.
it really toyed with you.
Yeah. Well, and you notice that she own so at the end, so what did it go all the way to 2015
Yeah.
was the last was the last year for Locke, but the first year for what Raya? Is that I forgot what her name actually is, or how they said it, but it was actually 2015 was her first year going back in time. So she was moving in the opposite direction that he was moving and bouncing every 9 years. And
Yeah.
so she only died once, which was in 1988. And so it was like you watched her life go backwards, you watched his life go forwards, and it was just like awesome. And because in 2015, that's when Locke finally figures out exactly where she's coming from, when she's going to be there, and he sits and waits for her. So when she shows up, when she time travels to 2015, she comes out of this, you know, sewer grate, drain pipe type thing onto a beach, and he's standing there waiting for her and holding a gun to her, and he's like, I'm gonna stop you, and she's like, why, you're the one that told me to be here. And it's just like, what? No way, hold on now. And that's when you find out that, spoiler, if you're still sticking around and you didn't want to be spoiled, you're gonna be spoiled. That's when you find out it's his granddaughter, and that she, and right before that scene, he gets a voicemail from his daughter saying, on this day, like, she's going into labor and she's going to be born on that day in 2015.
Yep.
And so it's just like, oh man, that's super cool. So it was just really, like, really, really cool on how they did it. How it goes full circle of him losing his wife on that day in 1988, gaining a daughter, all the way to 2015, where he's lost his daughter, but he gains a granddaughter, and kind of go like realizes, hey, I need to stop doing this. I need to stop chasing this person and just go on. Um, I thought that was really kind of cool. The other interesting part was who the people that were dying were. Throughout the movie, you just get this, it's almost just like random people. They never make the connection of what is connecting all these people until, what would it have been, 2006, I think, which is the second to last jump, is when Locke figures it out. He finds the one person, the basically the first person
Yeah.
that died by this means, and figures out. what the connection is, and it's, you know, what do you call it, like a homegrown militia terrorist group type thing.
Yeah, yeah. Militia is probably the closest.
They were a militia at the time that they died, you know, just a group of nationalists, you know,
Nationalists. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
better word.
that people that felt like the country was going in the wrong direction and it needed a kind of a civil war to bring it back. But at the time that all these deaths were happening, nothing had really gone very far. But you find out in the future, all these people banded together and became basically a homegrown terrorist group and basically started a civil war. And so now the people were going back, and this one person is going back in time, killing all these people that started this group to prevent the civil war from ending the country in the future. And so it brings up an interesting moral thought, like line to the movie that really isn't even touched on because of the family aspect of it and the fact that it's his granddaughter. They touch on it a little bit, but they don't really address it. And so I felt like that was one part of this movie that they could have done a little more with that. What do you
They
think?
could have, but I think the whole idea was, um, well, it's hard to really pin it down, but I think the whole idea of it was whatever this group ends up being, even if their politics are correct, it ends up being worse for everybody than the problems they were fighting against.
Yeah.
At least that's what they're trying to allude to. And then on the second part of that is, if you really look at it, in 1988, the guy lost his wife and his granddaughter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and
And and at the time, then in 2015 he's like, "Oh shit," you know, it he finds that out and he's like, "Oh damn, I killed my granddaughter."
yeah, yep.
Yeah. I and I think that's the part that this movie really focuses on. Like it really focuses on that idea and the mystery of it. The sci-fi is very small. It's not over the top or crazy. It's not in your face sci-fi. Like some things.
Yeah, there's no lasers or anything like that. I
Yeah.
mean,
No, Rhea, who keeps, coming back in time, his granddaughter, she doesn't have like any crazy tech or anything like that. Um, but the
other than
part,
that thing with the three
yeah, other than
pokers that fry your brain.
whatever's giving the isotope or whatever that was causing. But they even showed the creation of that through the that was interesting part too, like the doctor that or scientist that start like kind of figured out that hey, this is a what they call it, the blood moon that happens every 9 years is when this is happening, and the detectives like Locke just shrugs him off as nothing, like whatever, crazy,
It is what it
and
is.
yeah, so I thought that was really kind of funny, or not funny, haha, but funny, interesting. Um, but so the moral thing that I thought was interesting is is were they right? Is convicting somebody of a crime before they've committed the crime, Minority Report or any other of those time traveling type things, is that right?
And to me, it's not. To me, people may totally disagree with this, but to me, you have the constitutional right to break the law. We can't stop you from doing it.
Right.
We can punish you for doing it, but we
Right.
can't stop you. Constitutionally, we cannot stop you from doing it.
Right. And I would agree with that. I mean, I would agree with that too. But and that's the part of this movie that things like and maybe if this was a series rather than a movie, maybe they could have had more time to touch on. I mean, this was already a 2 hour, just under a 2 hour movie, so you only have so much time to work with, and so there's maybe only so much time you can touch on some of that.
Right.
The personal side of it, I think, a a bigger part of this movie than the moral side of it. But I thought that was very interesting. Um, the this kind of idea was touched on more in the Travelers TV series, where it's this idea that, hey, we're going back in time, we're taking over somebody else's life, and we're stopping these people from doing these certain things, basically prosecuting them. We've prosecuted them in the future. We're punishing them in the past, type thing. And to me, that's a really fine line. And what they were doing in this movie wasn't arresting them. This wasn't punishing them. This was execution. This was straight up female bus driver just apparently had thoughts that started a civil war, and so you're gonna die before you even can have those thoughts.
Yeah,
Um,
but here's the question: did they ever say what organization she belonged to?
nope.
She
Well,
no, the assassin, his
oh
granddaughter.
no, no,
So it may not have been a law-abiding thing. It could have been
yeah,
a counter nationalist group who
yeah,
actually ended up with some technology to do something about it.
yeah, yeah.
We
You're
don't
absolutely
know.
right. That
They never explain it to us.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely true. We do, there's and maybe I mean you can't do a sequel to this movie. There's no way you could do a sequel to this, but you could maybe do a spin-off of it in some, you know, situation or something similar or you know, something more like I don't know. I kind of want to see what the future like. Give us the future. When was the future? How old was she? You don't really know. In 2015, I mean, she doesn't look very old, but she could have been.
Yeah. She could have been anywhere from 19 to 29. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So she could have been coming from 2034, 2044.
yeah,
I
right.
don't know. Yeah.
So yeah, it really kind of interesting, and I think you're right on there with the. I mean, we don't know what that group was. We don't know if we know at that point. At least Locke was no longer a police officer. He'd been kicked out. I don't know, retired from the force, left the force, whatever. But he was no
I think
longer
he was given the boot.
yeah, he was no longer a police officer. So him kind of convincing her or telling her she should go back in time and do these things, like you're absolutely right. That doesn't have to be a government organization or a crime fighting organization, but just the other side of the Civil War. Yeah.
Yeah. She never
And
flashes a badge. All she has is a hoodie and that
yeah,
weapon. That's all we know.
yeah. Yeah. So this movie is really good, really good. And even if you've listened to all of this stuff, you should definitely go give it a shot. Go watch it because it is really top notch. Um,
Yeah, and I think it's the kind of movie, even though you know the ending, you could watch it multiple times just to see what you missed.
yeah, pick up the little things that you get here and there. Because the one part that I actually went back and rewatched was the 1988 um, talk between Locke and Raya before she dies. she looks at him and says, "So this is how it ends." She knew that this moment was coming because in 2015, when she first went back in time and found him old, he warned her about all of it. And you didn't know that watching the movie, so like it was really fun to go back and rewatch that first interaction between them, and which was her like what was that, like one, two, three, fourth interaction with him, and but it was his
Yeah.
first, and so it was really like it was really good. You pick up a few more things from that conversation where it's like once you know who she is, you understand that dialogue just a little bit better. So it's definitely worth rewatching.
Yeah, it's a fun ride for a movie to go from totally hating this person to totally feeling bad for this person by the time the movie ends.
Yeah, yeah, both
And
of them, both the
yeah,
main characters.
both
You
of them.
know,
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, you're gonna feel sorry for the main character because pretty much his life was ruined in
yeah,
1988. He never seems to get back on track.
yeah,
But if he only knew, I think his life would have been a lot easier.
yeah, yeah. No, it would have been more. What would have happened if he would have just decided, you know what? I'm not going to chase this down. I'm not going to track it down. After she warns him in 1997 and says, "Stop chasing me. Let it be." What would have happened? Would he still have his daughter? Would, you know, would the events, like, how would it all work out? Because after 1997, you don't actually see her kill anyone else.
True.
Because, like, to him, nobody else, he was no longer a cop, so he wasn't chasing the murder victims anymore. Now he was chasing the murderer. And the serial killer that they didn't want to call her. And um, yeah, just really good. Definitely worth definitely worth a
Yeah,
watch.
and
I was glad
besides
you
all the
told me
time
about it.
travel and all that other stuff, there's just a lot of parallels with what's going on in the world today that you could point to in that movie. Um, Good, bad, or indifferent, but it's there if you want it. I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to watch it again just to pick up on stuff. Maybe they did tell us where she was from and I just missed it. So I am going to watch it again.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Um, it's kind of funny. We talk about how good this is. Rotten Tomatoes only has it at 65%, but it's only got 23 reviews. Um, Metacritic has got it 48 out of 100, based on only 8 critics. So there's not a lot of people that have seen this, which is not surprising because Netflix original movies like this, I think they get glossed over a little bit. They don't get the wide release that you would from going to a movie theater. They don't get the advertising or the production or the marketing budget that these other films get. So this one is definitely way better than what the Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic are giving it. It is definitely worth a watch. Name of the movie is In the Shadow of the Moon. So kind of makes me want to go back and watch some of this other stuff that Jim Mickle has directed. He's directed a show called, or a movie called Mulberry Street,
Hmm.
uh, Stake Land, which looks like a zombie. It's an American vampire horror film.
Of course it is.
Yeah. We Are What We Are is another American horror film. Apparently, he's big into the American horror. And then he's got another crime drama called Cold in July from 5 years ago.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's got Mulberry Street is also a horror movie. So he's got 3 horror movies and another crime drama, and then a sci-fi. Sci What do they call this? Sci-fi science fiction thriller.
sci-fi thriller.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it is October, so
maybe you have to go
you gotta
check those
watch
out.
something with a little thriller in it.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, let us know what you guys think. If you hit pause and then went and watched it and then came back and listened to us, what did we miss? What do you think? What little nuances did we miss watching it that we didn't bring up here? What are some of the things you caught that we didn't? And if you listened to us and then went and watched it, did we ruin it for you, or was it still just as good even when you knew the ending? I kind of want to
And
hear.
if you think it's a 48 out of 100, let us know why you think that.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I'm
yeah.
easily entertained. So most movies are at least an 80 out of 100 for me. Because I watched Critters last night, for crying out loud. So I'll
Yeah,
watch anything.
yeah. There you go. All right, everybody. You know the drill. You want to reach out to us, you can email us at geekvice@gmail.com. But if you're not going to email us, why don't you go check out our blog, geekvice.blogspot.com. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at geekvice. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan. Yeah, send us an email. Let us know what you think, geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks, everyone, for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next week.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.